So I bet you're appreciating the better audio, probably better video too. The secret was a faster laptop, I guess. So, and lowering the resolution to 720p. I think the processing power has helped though. Okay, so the last thing we have to do for week 3 is take all the parts, all 10 parts we've created, populate them on a title block, and then create a PDF of that and email that to me. So if you look at, let's see, let's bring up Blackboard. Under academic content week 3, you will see this here, NX border templates. You need to download these. I just updated them a little bit, so if you've already downloaded them, you might want to download them again. One's an inch template, one's a millimeter template. Download those. This week we're only going to be using one of them, and that'll be the millimeter template. So I'm going to open the millimeter template, and it looks like this. Now if I were to open a file, let's open a part. Okay, each NX part file is kind of like two sides of a coin. They have the modeling on one side and you have the draft view on the other. So with the model you can also have a draft view. If you go up to application and go to drafting, you could pick a pre-sized sheet. A4 is 11 by 8.5. So if you did that, pick that one and say OK, you'd see that NX already has these templates for different size sheets. We're going to use one similar to this. The problem with these templates are there's hundreds of defaults you can set, just like with the program, hundreds of defaults, if not thousands. There's text size and arrowhead size and types of Terminator arrowhead and all sorts of fonts and thicknesses of lines. There's just hundreds and hundreds of defaults. So if you take the template, there's a lot of defaults that aren't set on there. Okay, and the border, since it's only a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, the title block takes up 15% of it right there. So what I did is I created a border template, and over a 2 or 3 week time, probably a whole semester, I would tweak it and keep setting defaults, so you don't have to mess with it if you use mine. So if you use this one, notice the title block is a lot smaller. The defaults that we need for this class, the text size and stuff, I actually minimized it a little bit below, a little bit smaller than standard sizes, because no one uses 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper in industry. Okay, the smallest you'll see CAD drawings in industry are 11 by 17, and those are usually just worksheets. They're not for documents. They fit on somebody's desk easy. But typically the smallest industry used sheet is 36 by 24, and they go up to 48 by 36. Okay, since most of us are limited to 8.5 by 11 printer, we're using this, but I'm scaling down the standard text height, which is usually 9 millimeters high, to about 6. So we're cheating a little bit, but we need some room. So use my template to hand in all your homework from now on, all the NX homework. Okay, and let me just take you around it. These lines are actually deletable, so don't delete the lines. In the title block here, if I zoom in, we have Kettering University. The second line is your name, so you can actually double click on the name here. So in the title block, the second line here, you highlight it with your cursor, you can double click on it and you can change your name. So you'd want to go put your name in here. All text in working drawings is uppercase, and put your section number in here. You're either 01 or 02, like that. The actual name of this sheet, or the name of this part file, is pre-programmed in. So if you change the name, you should use this template, keep it clean the way it is. For each week, you want to go to File, Save, Save As, and rename it to probably your name. Put your name in, your section number, your week homework, like week 3. There's only one assignment, but assignment 1, and there. That's how we would save it. Okay, for this sheet. Notice that the name changes down here. Okay, you can also change this here. This is for like week 3, assignment 1. Okay, so you can change that too. Now you still have the unchanged border template, and now you have one that's called week 3. Now we're going to populate this with this week's homework. So we're going to go to Base View, and whenever you bring up a dialog new command, this is called the dialog box. A lot of times it's minimized. There's like a full version of the menu and a shortened version. And a lot of times what it'll come up with is, this is Base View Less and Base View More. You will get a minimized view. Now there's 2 ways to open it up. You can go up to the Settings tab here, and you can click on that, and you can say, click on the More, or you can go to this, if there's a little triangle on the bottom, there's a larger menu. You click on that, and it'll open it up. This one can be stretched and opened as big as your screen is, but there's more options in it. And you need to get the larger menu here, because in the smaller menu they do not have the Part tab, and you need the Part tab because when you click on it, it will show you any parts you have open. It'll also, if you go to Open here, to the button, Open button, you can grab any part you want. So I'm going to grab the first part. I did. Let's get this up out of the way here. And now this is how you'd bring in an orthographic or an isometric view. By default, it always opens up the top view, not necessarily the top view you want, but it opens up the part with the top view in the orientation you modeled it. If you modeled it laying on its side, well, the top view is probably not what you want to be top. But for this week only, we're going to only put in isometric views. So click on this down button here and click on Isometric, and we're going to bring in an isometric, and it stalled on me. Let's try that again. There we go. And we want to put 10 parts in here. This is going to be a little bit too big. If you made your parts to the same scale I did, this cylinder is 60 millimeters wide, then it's going to be a little bit small. So we're going to go down to the scale here, and these are pre-created ratios that you can go 5:1, okay, 1:5, and if you go to ratio, you can actually put your own in, and we want to put our own in. You might have to play around with yours a little bit depending on if you did it wrong, but 1 to 1.5 is about the biggest size. I could probably make it a little bit bigger. I want to make these parts as big as possible without overlapping them. That's a little bit. 1 to 1.25 maybe. Okay. So click to drop it, and it's a wireframe. And we do this with all of them. So we go to the next one. You should also put your template in the same folder that all your models are in, okay? Because when you go to open the template again, it looks in the same folder as the template was for all your parts. If it can't find them, even though you might have brought them in from a different folder, it's going to look in the same folder the template is. If it can't find them, it can't update them if you've worked on them afterwards. So put all your models in the week 3 folder, put the template in the week 3 folder too. And once you reference in a model into your template, don't change the original name of the model, because if you change the original name of the model, it's going to look for that original name and won't find it, you know, if you changed it, and it won't be able to update it again. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next part, bring that one in, again as an isometric, and change my size to be identical with the other one. 1.25 or 1.5 probably works about right. So click on that. I'm going to now populate the rest of them, and I'll edit this part out. So now, if you remember, when we created this part, I actually created it wrong. Okay, I took the frontal view and I made it on the horizontal plane, and I said it's going to come in, you know, laying on its side. So this is how I'm going to show you how to rotate an isometric. Okay, if you model it in the wrong orientation, you can change it now. So what you want to do is, before you drop it on the sheet, you want to click on the Orient View tool right underneath the model view here, the model of the view, Orient View tool, and you get a preview. Boy, it's in black. That's unfortunate. But you get a preview of the part. Now that you can rotate this part, if you click on any plane, it's going to rotate it to that plane. We don't want to do that. You can also free rotate it, but that doesn't give us an isometric. So I just messed that up. Let's try it again. Orient View tool. What you want to do is rotate it about one axis. Z-axis, Y-axis, X-axis. If you click on one of those, I want to rotate it in this orientation, okay, around the X-axis. So I'm going to pick the X-axis, highlight it there, and the angle dialog box pops up there. I'm going to type in 90 and hit enter. Every time I hit 90 now, it's going to rotate it 90 degrees around the X-axis. Okay, like that. I'm clicking on enter, 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 enter. Okay. If I wanted to rotate it about the Y-axis, the vertical axis, same thing. And as long as you rotate it 90-degree increments, it always stays as an isometric. So you can rearrange the isometric to any orientation you want. And when you're done, you hit OK. And before I drop it in there, I'm going to change my ratio again to 1 to 1.5. And click to drop it. And then continue on. These may come in very large, the brackets, because they're made in the wrong units. Go. Okay, we're not done yet. Now all we have to do is shade them. That's called a raster image, and take off any center lines and hidden lines. Some of these have center lines in them, so if you click and drag around all these and hit delete, that will delete any center lines. Notice the center line has disappeared in here and over in that. I didn't get them down here. You gotta be careful, because if you put a box around, you might delete some of your template, some of your border. So I'm going to go click, oops. I'm going to go click and drag. Let's just do it one at a time. You can also go in here and just highlight it, right click and hit the X, and that will delete it. So technically an isometric picture does not have center lines or hidden lines. So we get rid of all the center lines. Now the hidden lines, one at a time. Notice that each one of these parts has a yellow box around it. This is called the boundary. And as long as you use the base view command to bring it in, you shouldn't have a problem with the boundary being too large. So let me go on here. Either you right click on it and hit settings, or you double click on it to bring up the settings menu. What we want to do is we want to go to hidden lines and change the hidden line type of dashed to invisible and apply it. And then we want to go to shading and go to fully shaded and apply it. Okay. Now I don't know of any way to do this to all of them at once, so let's just do it to all of them. Double click, hidden lines, invisible, shading, fully shaded. Okay. If you want to change the size of it, the scale of it, you can change it in here with under general. You can do the ratio here. Just the hidden lines. Now there's a box here. If you click on this, nope, that's not the box I was looking at. Process hidden lines. Some people click on this and they say, there, no more hidden lines. What that does, it actually turns all the hidden lines into object lines, which is, I don't even know what this is for. But don't do that. Okay, we want invisible lines, and we want them fully shaded. Why am I shading an isometric? An isometric isn't supposed to be shaded, right? I find that when you put a raster image on here, a raster image is a shaded image, that sometimes a shaded image, what do I got there? A shaded image sometimes shows me flaws in a model that a wireframe does not. So since I'm using your isometric pictorials here and not opening all your files to look for errors, I need as much information showing as possible. Shading, fully shaded. Okay, so that's how it should work when it's done. Look at your models very carefully, zoom in, look at them, compare them to the pictures in the book. If you drew an isometric of it, okay, compare it to that. If something doesn't look right, if you forgot to make an inclined plane or something doesn't look right, go back into the model, change it, come back into the drawing. In the drawing, when you open this title sheet back up, if you've edited the model, you will see under right here, under comment, it will say, under up to date here, it'll have a red X instead of a green arrow. To update everything again, you'd right click on drawing and say update. You'll see them all blink and it should update anything that you've changed. Okay, if you opened up your model and changed something, you should always save it first, but it should update. If it doesn't, try closing this file and opening it again, then it should update it. So everything should always be updated. That's why you should always have your navigator open so you can see things like this. Okay, make sure that you have the most up-to-date drawing. Now, a couple other things. If your boundary overlaps a shaded area, it's going to, when you print it out, it's going to delete that shaded part. So don't overlap your boundaries. If the boundaries are too big and you can't help but overlap them, try right-clicking on the boundary, go to boundary, and go to manual rectangle, and you can click and drag a new boundary. Okay, click and drag one that's very, very tight to the part. Okay, without going over top of something else. If it looks shaded on your sheet, but it prints out not shaded, that's because it couldn't update that drawing, either because the drawing's not in the folder, none of the drawings are in the folder. Okay, so these have to be not only modeled correctly, but they have to be shown correctly on this sheet. I'm showing you how to do one thing at a time in Mech 100. The next week we're going to be doing more models, a little more complicated, and on the template we're going to be putting orthographic views, a dimension on them, and we're going to put an isometric up in the corner. So wait till we get there. Okay, I'm showing you one thing, how to do one thing a week, so that by the time we get to the end of the semester, when you're putting your report together, you know how to do everything that the report needs. So this is what your week 3 homework should look like. And now this is how you create how you print it or create a PDF file. Let's right click and say update one more time. There we go. So we're going to save it. Make sure you always save it before you get done with anything. If you go to File, Print, This will print to a printer or to a PDF printer if you have a PDF printer. My brother printer here is a wireless printer, so if I click on this right now, it will print to my printer. Okay, here we go. So if we go to File, if you want to print whatever is on the screen, you'd say Print. You'd pick your printer, okay? Down arrow here, Settings. If you don't have a color printer, then you don't want color wireframe. You probably want black and white, okay? Image resolution, draft will work for what we're doing. If you get later on the semester and we do a rendered image and you want it nice and pretty, then go to high resolution or something, whatever your printer can print at. Current display means that it will print the display. It will fit this display, big display, on an 8.5 piece of paper, which means that at this point, this whole sheet would be printed smaller on the 8.5 piece of paper. Sheet 1A4 will print on this dashed line on the border, so it'll only print from the border in. So that's what you want, sheet 1A4, not current display. For you guys, since you're not printing it out and sending me the printout, you're going to be emailing it to me. You say print export. Now when you export, if you want to export the display window into a JPEG, you can say export, and there should be a JPEG in here. Oh, image, okay? So it can capture an image of the display, and that way you can put that image into a Word document or electronic document, for your final report, and save it on your hard drive. But you also can go to File, Export, PDF file, okay? And then you choose where you want the PDF file to go, name it, say OK, and click on Append. If you want to, if you have more than one sheet, click on Append, and every sheet that you print will print into that same PDF file, and it'll put them, multiple sheets in the PDF. And for next week, when we have 7 different parts, 7 sheets, I want them all appended, merged into one file, and sent to me that way. Okay, this week 3 you only have 1 to do, so you don't have to append it, and you just say OK, and it prints it to a PDF file. You should be able to open up, find that wherever I put those. I don't remember right. Okay, I put them right here, and there it is right up on top. I think that's the PDF. That's the PDF file. So take that PDF file and email it to me for this week's homework. This is week 3, which means it is due by week 4 Monday.